Welcome back. Today we're getting into an explainer that's honestly going to flip how you look at the trajectory of your entire life. We're breaking down the philosophy of Indonesian comedian and actor Abdur Arsyad. Looking at his recent interviews and just his wild life story, we're going to unpack his incredibly practical formula for actually engineering your own luck. So let's just get right into it.
Okay, be honest with yourself for a second. Do you ever just feel stuck? Like you're somehow inherently unlucky, or maybe the universe is just out to get you while everyone else is catching all the big breaks? I mean, we're taught to think of luck as this totally random roll of the dice, right? Just a cosmic lottery. But what if it's actually something you can build from the ground up?
Abdur introduces this really powerful core concept right out of the gate. It's rooted in the Islamic concept of husnuzan, which basically means having good expectations or making positive assumptions about what the universe or God has planned for you. He literally says that our lives are just a collection of our positive thoughts. And this establishes right away that luck doesn't start with some random external event. Nope, it starts with a radical internal shift in your mindset. Section 1. The secret behind luck. Delaying the conclusion of destiny. Now, to truly get how a positive mindset engineers luck, we kind of have to redefine what we traditionally call destiny. See, we are way too quick to judge our daily lives. Abdur argues that a destiny, or your fate, can only be called exactly that after it's fully played out. You can't just wake up and say, well, it's my destiny to have a terrible day today because, hey, the day isn't over yet. Like, if you get stuck in terrible traffic, you're probably going to curse your bad luck. But what if that exact traffic jam kept you from being in a massive accident a mile down the road? You just can't judge your luck prematurely because you're still in the middle of the story, not at the end. Moving on to Section 2, Connecting the Dots of Life. Nothing is ever wasted. And Abdur doesn't just preach this as some abstract theory. His whole life is basically a case study in how totally random, seemingly unrelated, and even frustrating experiences eventually connect to build incredible success. So picture this. Back in the early 2010s, Abdur was getting his master's degree in mathematics. His big dream was to be a certified civil servant teacher. That was the whole plan. To get some experience, he worked as an honorary teacher for this tiny, practically unlivable wage. But he found himself getting bored outside of classes, so he decides to try stand-up comedy. And why? Not to be famous. He literally just wanted to get better at public speaking so his math students wouldn't fall asleep during his lectures. Think about that. That one positive step to become a funnier math teacher led to taking some bizarre comedy gigs, which ultimately landed him on a massive national television comedy competition in 2014, and boom, his entire career path fundamentally changed. You really have to look at the incredible contrast here. As a teacher, spending hours prepping lessons, grading papers, he was pulling in around 150,000 Indonesian rupiah a month. Guys, that didn't even cover the gas for his scooter. But then, his comedy community offers him a gig performing stand-up at the grand opening of a local gym. I mean, imagine this. He's up there trying to tell jokes while people are literally bench pressing and sweating on treadmills right in front of him. Absolute chaos. But he got paid 300,000 rupiah for that 1 hour of work, literally double his entire monthly teaching salary. It was super uncomfortable and totally bizarre, but it proved to him that stepping out of your expected path is exactly what creates these wild new opportunities. Which brings us to Section 3, husnuzan, the Chinese farmer parable. To really hammer home why we have to stay positive, step out of our comfort zones, and delay our judgment, Abdur brings up a really famous philosophical framework. Imagine an old Chinese farmer. One day, his horses run away. The neighbors come over and go, "Oh man, what bad luck." The farmer just says, "We'll see." The very next day, the horses come back, and they bring 10 wild horses with them. The neighbors are like, "Wow, what great luck." The farmer just says, "We'll see." Then the farmer's son tries to tame one of those wild horses, gets thrown off, and breaks his leg. "Ah, bad luck," the neighbors say. "We'll see," says the farmer. A week later, the emperor's army marches through town, drafting every able-bodied young man for a really brutal war. The son gets spared because of his broken leg. So, good luck or bad luck? The point is, the outcome is never known in the moment. You've got to hold on to those positive assumptions. Section 4, the importance of movement, how to physically pick up luck. So what exactly are we supposed to do when we're feeling stuck? Because you can't just sit on the couch and magically hope your luck changes. Abdur's framework for getting unstuck is so hyper-practical, it's almost funny. Ready? Step 1, take a shower. Step 2, put on some actual clothes. Step 3, physically leave your house. Step 4, go meet people. That is literally it. You don't need a grand master plan. You don't even need money, really. Walk to a local park, hop on a public bus, go sit at a random coffee shop. Just by moving your physical body out into the world, you expose your personal timeline to all these new variables and new dots that can eventually be connected. He contrasts two very distinct states of being. First, you've got the house of negativity. This is when you're just sitting alone on your porch, staring into the void, overthinking absolutely everything that is wrong with your life. You're basically building these massive walls of negative thoughts and trapping yourself inside them. Now compare that to the open perspective. By just moving, visiting a friend, wandering around the city, your brain hits refresh. You literally cannot stumble into a new opportunity, a random job offer, or a cool new friendship if you're hiding inside your house overthinking the whole shebang. All right, Section 5, enriching your POV, broadening how you see the world. You know, that heavy feeling of bad luck almost always comes from having a super narrow, super isolated perspective of the world. Abdur shared this incredibly striking anecdote that really stuck with me. He remembered being on Twitter years ago up at like 3 a.m. waiting for a soccer match to start. And he sees someone tweeting, just complaining bitterly about how unfair their life is, how they can't sleep, how uniquely unlucky they are. And Abdur thought to himself, this person is complaining from a warm bed, wrapped in a blanket, using a smartphone with high-speed internet. If that person just got up and walked down to the local market at that exact moment, they'd see hundreds of people hauling ridiculously heavy sacks of cabbage and onions in the freezing cold, just to survive. The moment you see that, your perspective shifts instantly, and gratitude totally replaces the complaints.
As a stand-up comedian, Abdur points out that his job literally requires him to look at a single premise from 5 or 6 totally different angles just to find the punchline. And that's a huge takeaway for us. Deliberately training your brain to see multiple points of view is pretty much the ultimate cure for feeling chronically unlucky. When you actively force yourself to look at your current situation from the perspective of someone who has way less, those positive thoughts, that husn zone, it just naturally rises to the surface.
Section 6. The true meaning of success. A peaceful and grateful heart. So if we're out here engineering our luck through movement and positive thinking, what's the end game? What's the ultimate goal? Well, we actually have to redefine success altogether. True success in this world, it isn't about climbing to the highest office, becoming a billionaire, or chasing status. True success is having a heart that stays peaceful, open, and deeply grateful, no matter what your external circumstances look like. Look, if you have millions sitting in the bank, but you are totally consumed by anxiety and negativity every day, you're failing. But if you can hold on to that positive mindset, your husn zone, even when things are tough, you've already won. You are genuinely successful. And to maintain that kind of peaceful heart, Abdur actually calls out what he thinks is some of the most toxic advice out there, the idea that men shouldn't cry. He explains that shoving down your emotions for decades literally hardens your heart. It's like turning it to stone. And if your heart is hardened, it loses all its sensitivity. You become completely blind to the small, everyday blessings around you, and you block yourself entirely from feeling any genuine gratitude. Crying is not a weakness, it's a necessary release valve. It keeps your heart soft enough to actually recognize your own good fortune. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to chew on today. Are you blocking your own luck right now by just sitting and overthinking inside your comfort zone? Look, you can't control the universe. Nobody can. But you can control your movement, and you absolutely can control your mindset. So go take a shower, put on some decent clothes, step outside your front door, and start engineering your own destiny. Keep your perspective wide, keep moving, and I'll see you in the next one.